Episode 465. In the group chat, everyone scrambled to post a string of stunned emojis.
If the other side hasn't caught on to this, then the current situation is actually pretty good.
Then, from the ranks of Herb Hall, Carrot Seed suddenly spoke up.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Blue River said.
But how could they not have noticed that? We all applied to Happy the moment it hit level 5. Before that, maybe they'd only added one high-level player, but this time, so many of us joined at once. Isn't that enough to raise suspicion?
But look, he's invited all our people into his team. This team is clearly going to challenge the Guardian Demon God, which means he hasn't become suspicious of us yet.
Shi Qianzi said.
That's not necessarily true. Maybe he just wants to use us to take down the Guardian Demon God.
Blue River continued.
Then he'll probably never get past the Guardian Demon.
The others understood immediately. Shi Qianzi's meaning was clear. If they had to rely on them, then everyone would just go through the motions and deliberately fail against the Guardian Demon. While their accounts would suffer some losses, these alt accounts were prepared to sacrifice everything from the start, even if it meant being rendered completely useless.
Look, even if we don't lift a finger, they'll eventually beat the Guardian Demon with their own strength. A few extra failures might tarnish their guild's image a bit, but that's still a far cry from our real goal, isn't it?
As Yiduhan spoke, the group once again fell into deep thought. Indeed, this plan isn't some earth-shattering high-stakes gambit.
But doing it this way might actually win their trust.
The president of Herb Garden, Tian Nanxing, suddenly chimed in. Spring Breeze Old followed up with an agreement, but offered no reason for it. When it came to these text-based chats, Spring Chill would always fall silent. Everyone in this chat group was a veteran of Glory. Even without a direct explanation, they could grasp the general idea from the angle of winning trust instead. The difficulty of the Guardian Demon is fixed, determined entirely by the guild's level, and has absolutely nothing to do with the players' levels. If 20 level 70 players were to take on this level 1 guardian deity of a level 5 guild, it would be a walk in the park. But for these players, most of whom were between levels 35 and 39, taking down this level 1 guardian demon god was still something they couldn't afford to be careless about. Back when Glory's level cap was still 50, guilds would typically gather a full 20 level 50 players before taking on a guardian demon. It was only later, as more skilled and experienced players emerged, that the level requirement kept getting lowered. When a club guild like theirs was clearing the 10th server, they could basically take on the Guardian Demon God for that level once they had gathered 20 players around level 30. But the Happy Guild situation was different. If you excluded those ill-intentioned spies among them, you could say this was a guild made up entirely of newbies. So it was similar to the early days of Glory. What newbie would know how to kill the Guardian Demon? So, even with levels ranging from 35 to 39, taking down the Guardian Demon was still a monumental task. For these undercover players to avoid suspicion, or to gain Lord Grimm's trust, they needed to act like true newbies. Failing a few times against the Guardian Demon would actually help wash away the suspicion of them being from a major guild.
Good. Let's do it that way.
Zhang Yu from Tyrannical Ambition spoke up, and then the others voiced their agreement one by one. In the game, all their characters above level 35 were invited into the team. With the addition of Lord Grimm, Soft Mist, Windward Formation, and Steamed Bun Invasion, they had exactly 20 members. Meanwhile, Lord Grimm was in the team channel, explaining the strategy for the Guardian Spirit they were about to challenge, and he was just about finished. Of course, they didn't need to listen to this strategy. Even if they did, they'd pretend not to, since they were still playing the part of newbies. Chen Guo felt a surge of encouragement seeing some high-level players above level 35 finally joining the guild. It was getting late, but she felt wide awake. It wasn't just her. Almost no one in the Happy Guild had logged off. Everyone wanted to witness the moment the Guardian Demon was defeated, so they kept at their passionate guild tasks, all while waiting for the news. Yi Shu had just finished explaining the strategy, but the guild channel was dead silent. Everyone just sat there, looking dumbfounded, unsure if they'd even understood a word. Seeing this reaction, Chen Guo grew uneasy once more. Before she joined Excellent Dynasty, she had been in other guilds and fought Guardian Demons. She knew full well how formidable they were. Failing the Guardian Demon challenge comes with a few hefty penalties. First, you're on the hook for all the usual death penalties. Second, you lose the entry fee you paid to attempt the challenge in the first place. Third, Whether the challenge succeeds or fails, it will be announced to the entire server. A failed challenge would undoubtedly be a blow to guild morale and damage its public image. For a guild backed by a professional club, such losses might be negligible. But in Chen Guo's eyes, for Happy, they were truly heartbreaking. Even with a top-tier player like Yi Shu holding the fort, Chen Guo couldn't help but feel a little anxious.
Are you sure this will work? Should we wait until everyone's a bit higher level before we try to kill it?
Don't worry about it.
Pimph, look at these blockheads. They haven't reacted at all. They don't understand a word you're saying.
Chen Guo looked at the chat log in the team channel. It was all Yi Shu, constantly sending messages, while everyone else stayed silent. Chen Guo suddenly remembered something, leaning in again to ask Tang Rou, who was on the other side of Ye Shu.
Little Tang, can you understand what he's saying?
Just as Chen Guo had expected, Tang Rou shook her head in utter confusion. For someone who had never even seen the guardian demon, Ye Shu's current explanation of his tactics left her utterly bewildered.
Look, this isn't working. These guys are all newbies. They can't understand a word you're saying, and they're not even asking questions. The worst kind of newbie is the one who pretends to understand. How are we supposed to fight like this?
Little Tang will be fine. Her skills are solid. She can learn as she fights in there, no problem.
I wasn't talking about her. I'm saying, there are still dozens of other people here.
Chen Guo pointed at the team roster on Ye Shu's screen and said,
As for these guys, they're even less of a problem.
Yi Shu didn't turn around, but the corner of his mouth clearly quirked up. By the time Chen Guo hurriedly looked over, that somewhat eerie smile had already vanished, leaving behind only a very placid expression.
What's really going on here?
Chen Guo was sure there was more to the story.
I can't be sure there aren't any newbies among them, but to say they're all newbies, that's pretty unlikely.
What makes you so sure?
Because of their levels.
Just because they're higher level? That's a ridiculous reason.
The level gap in the 10th server is pretty ridiculous right now. You know, every club's guild has a stash of alt accounts on hand.
Wild accounts?
It's an account that doesn't join a guild,
What's that for?
for things you can't do out in the open. The most common example would be an undercover agent.
Chen Guo paused for a moment at Ye Shu's words. She had heard plenty of stories about spies infiltrating guilds in glory.
You mean... So all these characters are spies sent by the major guilds?
Exactly. There aren't many characters above level 35 to begin with, and they're all free agents without a guild. Yet here they are, popping up all at once. It's got to be the wild accounts the big guilds keep. I can't think of any other possibility.
But you knew those high-level players were spies and you still let them in?
Exactly. Might as well have them help us with the Guardian. Higher levels are better than lower ones, right?
But what if those guys deliberately hold back and don't pull their weight?
Holding back requires skill. Do it too obviously, and you're just giving yourself away. Don't forget who they are. They're undercover agents, exposing themselves so soon after joining the guild, just to hinder us on a single Guardian mission. The cost would be far too high. A spy account is a one-time use. Our Guardian quest, on the other hand, isn't a one-off.